is just a presentation about MYOB end of financial year processes. So we'll go through the sort of the flow of the end of a financial year process from start to finish, and we'll look at some MYOB screens along the way. Okay, that's just a picture of me. I'm a consultant at Thrive Tech, and one of the products that I support is MYOB Acumatica. So this presentation is just called Mastering Year End in MYOB Acumatica. Okay, so on the agenda we've got why year-end matters, payroll and STP finalisation, 2025 compliance updates, step-by-step guide across key modules, best practices and common pitfalls, resources, and there'll be a Q&A at the end. Okay, why year-end matters. All right, closing out your financial year isn't just a checkbox, it is essential. Essential for a number of reasons: accurate financial reporting, ATO compliance, clean audit trails, payroll visibility for staff via My Government. There are actually a whole host of other reasons as well. But ultimately, closing a year off sets your foundation for your 2025-26 budget and planning. Mistakes now can often lead to major delays, errors in audits, and frustrated employees. So it's always a good practice to do it as soon as you are ready. Okay, so we'll begin with the payroll module. And the reason why we start here is because in all ERPs, payroll is generally the first place that we will close off before the rest of the modules. So there's a few different things we'll look at: payroll year-end, STP finalisation, superannuation and compliance updates, and fringe benefit tax. Okay, so payroll year-end checklist. So the first thing you got to do is make sure that you've got everything posted. So there's no outstanding payroll, everything's posted and finalised, and it's posted to the general ledger. Then you need to finalise your STP Phase 2 reporting, submit the STP finalisation event, which is also known as a final file, to the ATO no later than the 14th of July 2025. Update any non-standard super guarantee rates and check thresholds. Report fringe benefits if applicable, and finalise and post all your pay runs there. Sorry, that should have been first. And there's a guide in this, a link in this slide deck, which I'm sure you'll be able to get a copy of from Lauren after, which details that's a lot more in depth than what we're going to go into right now. All right, so STP finalisation. So you navigate to that screen. I hadn't actually got that up, but I'll do that for you now. So one thing I will just show you while I've got you right here is that you can navigate to any screen in MYOB just by changing the URL. So one of the quick ways I like to do it is that URL I've highlighted there, that's a screen ID. So every screen in MYOB is a screen ID. So I'm going to refer to a bunch of screens while we're going. So in this case here, I can actually just show you quickly how to change it. Look at my thing. It was MPP 5023. So I'm just going to change that. So that's going to bring me up to the screen I'm actually referring to. So that's the STP finalised screen in MYOB. So you choose the financial year, dial up your branch or whatever company you're doing it for, your pay group, etc. And you can even drill it down to employees. And then once you've done that, there's the it's grayed out. You'd submit the finalisation event. Right, back to the presentation. Okay, just what I said. Select your employees, choose the correct financial year, click Submit Final Event. This replaces the old payment summary processes. That's probably no news to anybody. STP's been in play for a few years now. Once submitted, employee tax records are sent to the ATO and marked as tax ready in MyGov, and then they're able to do their personal tax returns. Just a reminder that the due date is the 14th of July 25 for those final files. Just a tip here, check that employee year-to-dates match what's been reported throughout the year. Right, superannuation update. So this year, new legislation has come into play with superannuation. So the super guarantee SG rate increases from 11.5 to 12%. the quarterly max contribution base actually decreases from $65,070 to $62,500. And the maximum super guarantee payment amount per quarter increases from $7,483.05 to $7,500. So you need to make sure that all non-standard super pay items in MYOB Acumatica are updated to reflect the minimum SG, and that employees earning over the cap are handled correctly. So just a quick word about that. MYOB will actually update the default super pay item themselves when they do an update at the start of the financial year, which also implements new tax tables, tax rates into the system if there's any changes to the tax. So along with that, super is updated. What I mean by a non-standard super item is if certain awards or companies will pay above or different rates of super above the minimum. So you always just need to make sure that whatever rate that is you've got reflected in the system is at least the minimum. Okay, fringe benefits tax. If you provide reportable fringe benefits, you need to create or update the FBT pay item, ensure it's mapped as reportable fringe benefit tax, enter your year-to-date amounts for each employee, run a $0 payroll with this item for each applicable employee, and submit via STP. This will ensure that FBT shows up in the employee's income statement correctly. Oops. Okay, tax rates for payroll. As I spoke of before, you do not need any tax patches or updates for MYOB Acumatica, and this is because MYOB apply any of the required changes to all customers automatically. Here we go. Right, compliance update information. So ETP cap has increased this year from 235,000 to 245,000. Per year of service limit has increased from $5,994 to $6,264. The genuine redundancy base limit has increased from $11,985 to $12,524. So you need to ensure termination pay items that reflect these new thresholds, as they will affect the tax treatment in the STP. There's also a link here to further information on the payroll compliance changes. Okay, so confirm your payroll is closed. So before moving to the finance modules, you need to make sure that all your payroll batches are posted, STP finalization is complete, and any backdated or manual pays have been handled. A quick note regarding payroll tax updates for the new year. Oh, same thing I've already put before. It's done automatically by the system, which is great. So now, once all that's taken care of, we can move on to finance. All right. So these are the core finance modules. We need to close all of these out independently before the financial year is truly finished. And we've got a checklist for each one of them. So we're going to walk through them one by one. So we'll begin with cash management. All right. So within cash management, ensure all your transactions are released. Verify and release all your cash transactions for the period. And you can do this via the Release Cash Transactions Form CA30400, which I've got up here. That's the screen here, if anybody's familiar with that one. And there's the screen ID just on the URL there I've highlighted. Right, the bank reconciliation should be complete. All accounts should be reconciled for the final period up to the 30th of June. Recalculate your balances using the Recalculate Account Balances form, which we'll look at in a moment. Select your bank accounts and process all. All right, so this is the Recalculate Account Balances form they're talking about. So you select all your accounts and click on the Process All button. And once you've done those tasks, you can close the financial period within the cash management module. Accounts payable. Okay, release all your bills and your payments. So you need to verify and release all AP transactions for the period from the Release AP Documents form, which we'll look at in a moment. This includes bills, credit and debit adjustments, and payments. So let's look at that now. So here is the release AP documents form. So you select everything and release everything, so there's nothing remaining. Okay, validate your supply balances. You can go to the recalculate supply balances form, AP 509900, tick all suppliers and process all, which we'll look at in a moment. That's this one here. You can tick all with the checkbox here on the header row, or you can do it individually if you need to, and click the process all button. All right, then you will need to reconcile your AP to the general ledger. Compare your AP balances to the GL control account. And once everything matches there and everything's closed off, you can close the financial period for the AP module. Okay, accounts receivable. You will need to release all your invoices, credit notes, and receipts. Verify and release all the AR transactions for the period from the release AR documents form, which we'll look at in a moment, AR 501000. This includes invoices, credit and debit adjustments, and also payments. Here's the release AR documents form here. There's nothing to show, but you tick them all and release all. Okay, validate your customer balances by using the recalculate customer balances form, AR 509900. Tick all your customers and click on process all. So we select everybody here, click on process all. Okay, then you will need to reconcile the AR to the general ledger. Once that's done, you can close the financial period in the AR module. Now, I did put a slide in here about inventory and fixed assets. If it's used, not every customer uses these modules. So we'll have a quick run through of this. Conduct inventory stock take. There's a physical stock take and process any adjustments. Release your inventory transactions. Reconcile inventory to GL. Then you can close the financial period in the inventory module. Okay, for fixed assets, calculate and process your depreciation for the year. Reconcile your fixed assets accounts. And there's a couple of screens that we're going to look at in a moment. So first is fixed asset cost account against the fixed assets cost by class report, which is FA 691101. We'll just bring that up and have a quick look. Here's that report. So you run that report and then reconcile your fixed assets. While we're here, we'll look at the second one. And this is another report, which is the fixed assets balance by GL account. The screen ID is FA 643000. And these reports can run by account, down to by sub-account, by company, etc. Okay, so we've just looked at these ones too. So accumulated depreciation account needs to be reconciled versus fixed assets balance report, which we just looked at in the screen before. Once these tasks are completed, you can close the financial period in the fixed assets module. All right, onto the big one, general ledger. So verify all your general ledger transactions have been finalized and posted. Make sure that there are no drafts and unposted entries. This includes journals, end of year adjustments, subledger reconciliations, recurring transactions, and cost allocations. Then you will need to reconcile with subledgers, that's cash management, AP, AR, and inventory, if they haven't been done in the previous steps. And there's a form here we can look at, which is recalculate account history form. Select all the accounts, process all. Which is that one there. Okay. All right, so finalize and lodge your business activity statements. And you can use prepare tax report form, TX 501000, and then release the tax report, which is screen ID TX 502000. We'll look at those briefly now. So here's where you prepare your BAS tax report for your company. And once you've done that, this is the next screen, TX502000, where you would release them to the tax office. Okay, so once these are completed, you can close your financial period in General Ledger. Right, so closing the financial year, part one. This is a bit much to fit on one slide. Okay, so you need to create the new financial year if you haven't already done that. And there's a link there to manage the new financial year and generate the new periods if you haven't already done so. You need to make sure that your month-end processes and transactions are all finalized. Okay, so complete your normal month-end procedure for all modules except GL. If you have multiple companies or branches, post all adjusting journals and complete the consolidation process. Then you will need to confirm all transactions have been posted to GL. Right, print your end-of-year reports, including trial balance summary. We'll have a look at these in a moment. GL 632000, trial balance details, GL 632500, balance sheet, GL 634000 for year-to-date and month-to-date amounts, profit and loss, GL 635000, and cash flow, GL 636500 from period 1 all the way through to period 12. So if you've got any budget or forecasting reports, including year-to-date or month-to-date amounts, this is if you use budgeting, reporting, or statistical ledgers. We'll just have a quick look at some of these forms for end-of-year reporting. Right, this is a trial balance summary report, which is GL 632000. Trial balance detailed, GL 632500. The balance sheet report, which is GL 634000. And you choose your periods with the selection icon. And your profit and loss, which is GL 635000. And cash flow. So and from periods 1 through to 12 with the start and finish here, start financial period, end period. And this screen is GL 636500. Now these screens are probably familiar to all MYOB users who work in GL. Right, part 2. So close the last financial period. There's a guide on here on exactly the mechanics of how to actually do that step by step within MYOB Acumatica. After closing the financial year, check the process has been successful. The new periods are showing in the relevant screens. The balance sheet shows that net income or loss has been carried forward to retained earnings, and profit and loss balances have been set to 0. Print copies of your base financial reports for the new year. And we just had a look at those reports before. There's retained earnings details, balance sheet we just looked at, and also profit and loss we just looked at too on the previous screens. If you do need to make any further adjustments, you can post them to the previous financial year period. Right, so best practices and common pitfalls. Do's. Do finalize payroll before finance. Perform monthly reconciliations, and this is just for easier issue reconciliation. It's much easier to, if you've got any problems closing the year off, to go back looking for issues in the last month than over the last 12 months. Do backup. So we'll have a look at this in a moment. So you can actually create a snapshot, which is a copy of your MYOB tenant before closing your end of financial year. A guide on this can be found in the tenants form information section, which we'll look at right now. So this is the tenants form, and here this is where you could actually take a backup of your current company as it is. And just want to point your alert to here. So there's a step-by-step guide on how to do that. It's a fairly simple process. So if anything went wrong, it can easily be restored. Your data can be restored. So this little question mark up in the top right is the MYOB help section, and it's very good. So Here you've got a bunch of activities and related information, and there's also other links. This is for any MYOB form, any page, always has this little question mark. So if you're ever stuck or you're not sure what to do, click on that, and you've got a number of different topics you can look at. This also extends to a few web links here from the MYOB provider for educational resources, and also some more technical documentation about MYOB Acumatica. That's what we're doing. Okay, so a couple of things that you do want to avoid is posting into closed periods, leaving unreleased transactions in the system, and finalizing and submitting your STP late, which is post 14th of July 2025. Here's a recap of the timeline and the sequence of events at a very high level. Close off your payroll and perform those end of year processes, finalize your STP, lodge it to the ATO, etc. Reconcile your cash management and close that off. Reconcile and post your accounts payable, then accounts receivable. Go through the brief procedure we spoke about for inventory and fixed assets, and then onto general ledger last, which is the largest module and the most complex. Okay, here are some resources that could be helpful in the slide deck here. So there's actually a step-by-step guide on that MYOB have actually put out here on end of financial year. Here's a MYOB Academy. There's a number of courses, short courses you can do for every topic of operating MYOB Acumatica. They can be found with this link here. They're actually really, really good. If you want to raise a bill, adjust a bill, release a bill, pay a bill. Like for example, there's all short guides on how to do things like that in the MYOB Academy. The link for the ATO website, the details, you'll be able to find all the updated information for the current changes for the new financial year. And here is the email for the Thrive Help Desk. So if you're ever stuck, drop us an email here and we'll be happy to help. Okay, Q&A. Now, before we go to open the floor, just remember that you can also book a one-on-one end of financial year appointment and be guided through the process with one of our consultants, or you can access our help desk for support with the email on the previous screen, help@thrivetech.com.au. Do we have any questions at all? No questions? All right, and I think we might close this off then. And this is just some contact. There's my contact email there and a contact email for Sarah Forbes, who's our salesperson at Thrive. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Andrew. That was a good presentation.